Welcome back to the Gravel Gospel. I'm Bionic Leg. All right, so remember Noah's three sons. You got Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, so after the flood, they're the ultimate patriarchs. God tells them to multiply, fill the earth, and they took the multiplying part to heart. But the filling the earth part, not so much. There's more on that later. So chapter 10, it's basically a family tree. It's a history lesson rolled into one. It's cram packed with names, but they're pretty important because it lists the descendants who eventually become the nations and the people we read about throughout Scripture. So this is the world building. It's going to set the stage for everything as we go. Full transparency. Some of these names are, for me at least, they're challenging to say, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. All right. So first up to bat, we got Japheth. So his sons and grandsons, they spread out to become the ancestors of many European and Asian places we know today. They're often known as the peoples of the coast. Think Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, so on and so forth. Okay, uh, they settle and they settle in the northern and western lands, basically kicking off a huge chunk of the world map. Okay, so next up we got Ham or Ham, however you want to say it. His line is interesting. Uh, his sons, they include Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Not Canaan like the place, not the but that's his name. Either way, I digress. So from Cush, that comes Nimrod. This dude is legendary. Text calls him mighty hunter before the Lord. He's kind of a big deal. So big that he becomes the first mighty king and founds several major cities, including Babel, that Babel, and I'll talk about here in a little bit, Eric and Akkad. Then we got Canaan, like dude's name. He's the one that Noah cursed after the whole tent incident. So his descendants, they formed various tribes like the Sidonians, Hittites. They later inhabit the promised land. This is where the narratives that I had talked about, they start to sprout into future conflicts. Finally, last to bat, we got Shem. Okay, so you got him, Shem, and Japheth. This is Shem. His descendants settle primarily in the Near East. This is where we get names like Elam, Ashur, and Aprashad. I think I said that name right. He's the one that kicks off the long living lineage. This line is most crucial for crucial for the rest of the story, and it leads directly to the man God's going to use to establish his covenant. I say all that to say the descendants of Noah's three sons, they became the table of nations, with each family group heading out to their own territory, language, and nation. All right. Tower of Babel. Okay. Before those nations fully scatter, we got to backtrack just skosh. Despite all the multiplying and to the point where the world at this point, the earth still had one language. They're using the same words. Multiple languages, what we know today, they don't exist yet. So as the people are migrating, they go east, they find some really nice real estate in the land of Shinar. They decide, yep, that's it. We're building here. We're going to die. In their infinite wisdom, they think it's a good idea to bite off more than they can chew. Chapter 11 says, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. Let's build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. That's cute. So they're using unity in architecture to secure their future, but on their terms, not in God's. And their insane hubris, they conveniently forget the second part of God's blessing when he said, hey, fill the earth, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. They just kind of forget that part. How are you going to explore the whole earth if you're just stuck in one spot? I mean, sure, you can continue to expand, but that's missing what God said. So they're building this thing, and You know that feeling you get when you're in a room with really loud kids? If you got a toddler at home, they're constantly loud, and then all of a sudden they get really quiet. You're going, "Oh no, I should probably go look at this." Yeah, keeping in mind, obviously, God being all knowing, he's not surprised. He knows what's going on, but still goes down to check out their little skyscraper project. He sees that potential. God says, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they could do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them." Keep in mind, this is not what God had planned. Okay. So God said that in their ingenuity was bringing them to a common goal, but that wasn't what he said. So he issues the command. He says, "Come, let us go down there. Let us confuse their language so they may not understand one another's speech." The chaos had to have been hilarious. Construction stops instantly. Well, one word, if a word meant house, it suddenly changed and it meant cow. The word for brick became the word singing. I mean, I can picture this in my head, right? You got two guys, they're at the vendor because they've been building whatever, they need a snack. And right in the middle of making a transaction, dude's at the counter, and all of a sudden he starts yelling for a banana, and the vendor's going, "What?" And the guy that's yelling for a banana is holding a dove. And the vendor's like, "What is going on?" It's just bizarre. I digress. I thought it was funny. So, Lord scatters them all over the face of the earth. They got to abandon their cute little project. So, the city, it was named Babel. So, the language thing that we use, the program, Babel, that's where this comes from. Because the Lord mixed up the world's languages. That's how the nations, all the way back in the beginning, that's how they start to spread. Okay. All right. So let's get to Abram. So yeah, all that setup gets us to this point. Okay. So after the factory reset, Bible immediately goes back to the most important in the family line, Shem's family. So track the lineage again. Shem leads to Aprashad, who leads to Shelah, who leads to Eber, and blah 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 blah. So the lifespans they're starting to diminish, but it's still kind of dope. So finally, we get from Shem's line, we get to Terah. So when he's 70, he's got three sons by the time he's 70, which is wild. Abram, as in that Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran's got a son named Lot, as in Lot. Okay. It's kind of a bummer, but Haran dies before his dad. So he dies in a place called Ur of the Chaldeans. Abram, he marries Sarai. Nahor marries, and I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm gonna try it. Milcah. I'm gonna call her Milcah. Probably butchered that, and I apologize. Some of these names take pride in it, but some kind of struggle. Okay, really important thing to note: Sarai, as in Abram's wife, she's barren. She can't have kids. But the scripture doesn't say why, other than the fact that God had a really cool plan. Okay, so she's barren. Remember that, because that's going to come into play in the next couple chapters. So, Terah, as in Abram's dad, he decides time for a change of scenery. We're going to roll. So he takes Abram, his grandson Lot, daughter-in-law Sarai. They bounce. They leave Ur of the Chaldeans. And then they start heading where they were supposed to, toward the land of Canaan. So they're back on track. For some reason, I got excited, but for some reason they don't make it all the way. They stop and they settle in a place called Haran, not the person, the place. Scripture doesn't say why, but that's just where they live, where they stopped. Terran, he ends up dying when he's 250. So let's go back what I was saying about the long lifespans. That's when he dies. So the story that we're at right now, we're gonna put a pin in it. I covered a lot of ground in a really short time, but it's setting us up for later. Story closes on Abram. He's stuck in a foreign land. He's got a barren wife, Lot in tow, waiting for God's next move. World's populated, languages are divided. Now we're set. Now we got the stage set for Abram to become Abraham. So that's what we got. Relatively short, to the point. But I am Bionic Leg. It's the Gravel Gospel. I appreciate you.